7 rules that will make you rich. Listen, success doesn't chase noise, it follows focus. So decide what you want and lock in. No backup plan, no excuses. Discipline beats talent every single day, so show up early, stay late, and do the work when nobody's clapping. Your mind is the engine. Feed it belief, starve it fear, because what you think about all day shows up in your life. Rich habits build rich lives. Save a little, invest wisely, and stop trying to look wealthy instead of becoming it. Failure isn't a stop sign, it's tuition. Learn the lesson, stand back up, and walk forward with your head high. Surround yourself with builders, not talkers, because energy is contagious and dreams need the right room to grow. And remember this, don't wait on luck. Faith without action is empty, so move, trust God, and claim what's already yours. 1. Decide exactly what you want and commit without a backup plan. 2. Practice discipline daily, especially when motivation is gone. 3. Control your thoughts because mindset shapes results. 4. Build rich habits instead of chasing quick money. 5. Treat failure as a lesson, not a defeat. 6. Choose your circle wisely because influence is power. 7. Take action with faith and consistency. Decide exactly what you want and commit without a backup plan, because the moment you give yourself an escape route, your mind quietly starts walking toward it, and before you know it, the dream turns into a wish and the wish turns into regret. So you've got to be clear, dead clear, about where you're going and why it matters to you, not to impress people, not to prove anything, but because it burns inside you and refuses to let you sleep. Too many people drift through life hoping things will somehow work out, and hope is nice, sure, but it's a weak strategy when it's not backed by decision. Because when you decide, really decide, something shifts, your posture changes, your voice changes, your actions line up, and suddenly you're not asking for permission anymore. Commitment means saying no to distractions that look harmless, to comfort that feels good now but costs you later, and to voices, including your own, that whisper, maybe this is too hard. With no backup plan, you stop negotiating with fear and start negotiating with reality, figuring things out instead of backing out. That's when creativity wakes up, because pressure forces you to think differently, to stretch, to grow, and to do things you didn't know you were capable of doing. Look, nobody stumbles into success by accident. It's built by people who made a clear choice and then honored it on the days they felt strong, and especially on the days they didn't. Commitment isn't loud, it's quiet. It's waking up early when nobody's watching. It's staying consistent when results are slow. It's trusting the process even when progress feels invisible. When you remove the safety net, you learn how to fly, not because you're fearless, but because you're focused, and focus is power. Decide what you want, write it down, see it clearly, and then burn the bridges behind you, because a divided mind never wins, but a committed one, step by step, finds a way where there seemed to be none. Practice discipline daily, especially when motivation is gone, because motivation is a visitor, it comes and goes, but discipline is a resident, it stays, it holds the door, it keeps you moving forward when the excitement fades and the applause is nowhere to be found. People love talking about passion, but passion without discipline is just a spark that dies out fast, while discipline is the quiet fire that keeps burning long after the thrill is gone. On the days you feel tired, uninspired, or doubtful, that's when discipline matters most, because those are the days that separate talkers from builders. Discipline means doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it, sticking to your routine, honoring your word to yourself, and understanding that consistency beats intensity every time. You don't need to be extreme. You need to be reliable, showing up daily, putting in the work, and trusting that small efforts compound into massive results over time. Every disciplined action is a vote for the person you want to become, and every skipped effort is a quiet agreement with mediocrity, so choose wisely. Discipline trains your mind to obey you instead of your moods, and once your mind falls in line, your life follows. It builds self-respect because every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your confidence, and confidence, real confidence, isn't loud, it's earned. Discipline also protects you from distractions that drain your energy and steal your future, helping you say no to what feels good now so you can say yes to what truly matters later. Over time, discipline creates momentum, and momentum makes the hard things feel easier, not because they are easier, but because you are stronger. When motivation disappears, discipline steps in and says, "Keep going," and that simple decision, repeated day after day, is how ordinary people achieve extraordinary success. Control your thoughts because mindset shapes results, and whether you realize it or not, you are always living out the story you tell yourself in your own head every single day. If you keep feeding your mind doubt, fear, and excuses, don't be surprised when your life reflects hesitation and limitation, because the mind doesn't joke around. It believes what you repeatedly tell it. Your thoughts become your attitude becomes your actions, and your actions become your outcomes. So if the results aren't changing, it's time to look upstream at what's going on in your thinking. You don't have to control every thought that enters your mind. That's impossible, but you do have to choose which ones get to stay, which ones get your attention, and which ones get shown the door. Negative thoughts will show up uninvited. That's human, but dwelling on them is a decision, and that decision quietly shapes your future. When you train your mind to focus on possibility instead of limitation, solutions instead of problems, progress instead of perfection, you start moving differently, you speak differently, and you carry yourself with a confidence that doesn't need validation. A strong mindset doesn't mean you never doubt. It means you don't let doubt drive the car, you acknowledge it. Then you remind yourself of what you're capable of and why you started in the first place. What you consistently think about grows stronger. So if you rehearse failure in your mind, you'll perform it in real life. But if you rehearse success, discipline, and belief, your actions will follow that script instead. Protect your mind like it matters, because it does. Be careful what you listen to, who you listen to, and what you say to yourself when things get hard. Your inner dialogue becomes your outer reality, and once you understand that, you stop playing small and start thinking intentionally. Control your thoughts, not with force, but with awareness, repetition, and purpose, because a focused mind is a powerful weapon, and when your mindset is right, your results have no choice but to catch up. Build rich habits instead of chasing quick money, because fast cash without structure usually disappears as quickly as it arrives, leaving you right where you started, frustrated and confused. Real wealth is boring at first. It's built quietly through habits most people overlook because they don't feel exciting or glamorous. It's waking up with a plan, managing your time, tracking your spending, and making intentional choices day after day, even when no one is watching. Rich habits are about patience, about understanding that consistency compounds, and that small, smart actions repeated over time can outperform big moves made once in a while. Instead of asking how to get rich fast, ask how to become the kind of person who naturally creates value, because money follows value, not the other way around. When you develop habits like saving before spending, investing instead of wasting, learning instead of scrolling, and planning instead of reacting, you quietly shift your financial direction. Chasing quick money often leads to stress, shortcuts, and risky decisions, while building habits creates stability, clarity, and confidence. Rich habits also shape your identity because what you do daily becomes who you are, and once you see yourself as disciplined, thoughtful, and long-term focused, your choices start to reflect that automatically. Wealth isn't about how much you make, it's about how much you keep and how wisely you grow it, and that comes down to habits, not luck. Even when progress feels slow, those habits are working in the background, building momentum you can't yet see. Over time, what once felt small becomes significant, and what felt difficult becomes natural. People admire the results, but they don't see the years of quiet consistency behind them. Stop chasing shortcuts that promise everything and deliver nothing, and start building habits that pay you back for life. That's how real wealth is created, not overnight, but inevitably by those willing to think long-term and act accordingly. Treat failure as a lesson, not a defeat, because failure isn't the end of the road. It's part of the journey, and the people who win big are usually the ones who failed more times than anyone cares to count. The problem isn't failure itself, it's how you interpret it. Because the moment you see failure as proof that you're not good enough, you stop growing. But when you see it as feedback, you get stronger, wiser, and more prepared for what's next. Every setback carries information showing you what didn't work, what needs adjusting, and where you need to level up, but only if you're willing to look at it honestly without letting your ego get in the way. Failure humbles you, strips away illusions, and forces you to confront reality. And while that process can sting, it also builds character, resilience, and depth. People who fear failure play it safe, and playing it safe rarely leads anywhere extraordinary, but those who accept failure as part of progress keep moving, learning, and improving. You don't have to enjoy failing, nobody does, but you do have to respect it, because it's one of life's greatest teachers. Each failure thickens your skin and sharpens your judgment, teaching you patience, discipline, and persistence in ways success never could. When you fall short and still choose to stand back up, you send a powerful message to yourself that you're not defined by one moment, one loss, or one mistake. Over time, that mindset builds unshakable confidence, not because everything goes right, but because you know you can handle it when things go wrong. Failure also keeps you hungry, reminding you that growth is ongoing and mastery takes time. Instead of asking why this happened to you, ask what this moment is trying to teach you, because the lesson is always there, waiting to be claimed. Treat failure as tuition, not a verdict. Pay attention, learn the lesson, adjust your approach, and move forward stronger than before, because every great success story is built on a foundation of failures that refused to have the final word. Choose your circle wisely, because influence is power, and whether you admit it or not, the people around you shape how you think, how you act, and what you believe is possible. You can have big dreams, strong intentions, and raw talent, but if you're constantly surrounded by negativity, excuses, and small thinking, it slowly seeps into you, changing your mindset without you even noticing. Energy transfers, attitudes spread, and habits rub off. So the question isn't whether your circle affects you, it's how much. When you spend time with people who complain, blame, and settle, comfort starts to feel normal and ambition starts to feel risky. But when you're around builders, thinkers, and doers, growth becomes the standard and excuses don't survive. The right circle challenges you, not with judgment, but with example, pushing you to raise your standards, tighten your discipline, and think bigger than you thought you could. This doesn't mean everyone around you has to be perfect or successful, but they should be honest, driven, and committed to growth, because iron sharpens iron, not cotton. Sometimes choosing your circle means outgrowing people you care about, and that's not easy, but growth often requires difficult decisions, not because you think you're better, but because you're serious about becoming better. The wrong environment can drain your motivation, while the right one multiplies it, making progress feel lighter and purpose feel clearer. Pay attention to how people make you feel after you leave them, energized or exhausted, inspired or doubtful, focused or distracted, because those feelings are clues. Your future listens to the conversations you keep, and if your circle talks more about problems than solutions, drama than direction, you'll struggle to move forward. Choosing your circle wisely is an act of self-respect, a declaration that your time, energy, and dreams matter. When you surround yourself with people who value growth, accountability, and vision, success stops feeling lonely and starts feeling inevitable, because together, you rise faster and fall less. Take action with faith and consistency, because belief without movement is just a nice thought, and action without faith burns out fast, but when the two work together, things start happening in ways you couldn't plan. Faith isn't about having all the answers, it's about moving forward even when the picture isn't clear, trusting that clarity shows up after you step, not before. Too many people wait to feel ready, to feel confident, to feel certain, but readiness is built through action, not waiting, and confidence grows when you prove to yourself, again and again, that you can show up. Consistency is what turns faith into results, because doing the right thing once feels good, but doing it daily, especially when it's boring or uncomfortable, is what changes your life. Small actions, repeated with belief, create momentum, and momentum makes the impossible start to feel manageable. There will be days when doubt creeps in, when progress looks slow, and when quitting feels easier, and that's where faith matters most, not blind faith, but grounded faith, the kind that says, keep going, even if today doesn't make sense yet. Action silences fear, because fear feeds on hesitation, but once you move, it loses its grip. Consistency builds trust with yourself, and self-trust is powerful, because when you know you won't abandon yourself, you take bigger risks and aim higher. Faith keeps you steady when results are delayed, reminding you that growth often happens underground before it breaks the surface. You don't need massive actions, you need meaningful ones, taken daily, aligned with what you believe and where you're headed. When faith and consistency walk together, setbacks don't stop you, they shape you, and delays don't discourage you, they strengthen you. Over time, what once felt like effort becomes identity, and action becomes automatic. Take the step, then take another, trust the process, stay consistent, and watch how doors start opening, not because of luck, but because faith in motion has a way of creating its own opportunities.